You're setting me up here for like, I'm like, how do I answer this one?
Sonic 1029.
I'm Brandy with Sonic 1029. I'm here with Sam Roberts. Hello.
Hey, Brandy, how's it going?
It's going so good. I have to say, this summer is probably a lot different for you than touring last summer. Because that was just like the world getting back to normal, right? And starting to like have distance shows and have capacity. And what's it like to be back full blast?
I think, yeah, it feels amazing, first of all. Let's start at the present and then work our way back. So yeah, this has been the first normal feeling summer that we've had. And again, it's not just about shows, it's also about lives, the way that, for the kids going back to swim team and soccer practice, and everybody sort of back at work. But from a musician's perspective, playing shows like up on real stages in front of actual human beings is pretty incredible, I have to say.
And in all of that craziness, you recorded an album, which was like oddly prophetic theme-wise, because a lot of those songs were written before the pandemic, but it all kind of like reflected what we were feeling and going through.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to say that was an intentional thing, but it's, as so often happens, music will take on, in an almost chameleon-like way, the complexion of the world and the times that you're living in. So the U.S. elections going on, we had crazy climate change events all over the world, conflict here, conflict there. So I was just writing about those things. Little did we know that there was a pandemic sort of hiding right around the corner, going like, you think you've seen the worst of it, like wait till you see what I got for you in February, And so the record was sort of about all of that, trying to make sense of the already sort of tumultuous times that it felt like we were living in. And then again, we knew nothing at that time. I feel like we're all we've been put through the ringer together, and again, music, it's part of the magic of music, not because it's necessarily intention of the person writing the music, but the music itself will sort of morph and take on the shades and the colors of the world around it. And for us, that record became a very personal statement, I guess.
Well, and you kind of gave us a look at it doing the documentary kind of about the making of the record, kind of holding yourselves up and being totally isolated and being just with yourselves as you made the album, I'm sure was very different. But, going forward to a new record, is that maybe something that you benefited from and would want to emulate in the future? Or you just want to get back to normal and do it the old way?
It's going to be a party record. This next record is just going to be the best vibes record ever. No, it's definitely something I'm glad that we were able to do it, but the idea of being that isolated again, I don't think any of us would naturally gravitate towards that. There's always an element of isolation when it comes to making records, where you have to shut out the outside world a little bit in order to maintain your focus and your being able to pour as much of yourself into it requires that you remove yourself a little bit from your day-to-day life. So there will always be that, but I don't know if we have to go to the North Woods again,
Go mushroom hunting again.
Exactly. I don't know if mushroom hunting is going to be a huge part of the next record, but no, I don't know. It's almost like we don't remember how to be pre-pandemic, so I think we're going to have to kind of refine that part of ourselves in terms of recording and writing music again, and just again being drawing in the energy. And I think there's a lot of that rebound energy that you feel around, like you feel it at the show today. We've been seeing it at all the shows across Canada this summer. People are hungry to be together again,
Let's talk about the differences between last time you were in Edmonton touring, which was with Anyway Gang at Starlight Room. What's that like? Because at this point you're, and to age you're like becoming the elder statesman in Canadian rock. You've been around for a bit. You got a crew. You got to, you're not used to traveling in a van and sharing hotel rooms and lugging your own gear. Was that a welcome return, or were you like, get my people back?
This is a very pointed question right now. You're setting me up here for that. I'm like, how do I answer this one without shooting myself in the No.
Did you bunk with Chris?
I bunked with Chris. I mean, if you ever want to go to Canadian rock and roll boot camp, you bunk with Chris Murphy. There's just no other roommate who will do bring you down to the level that you need to be in order to lug gear, in order to sort of reconnect with that well of humility that should be at the center of everything that you do, And that whole tour was, we had a great time, but yeah, it was very much like being back in, I don't know, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, being back in the van, listening to comedy podcasts nonstop, because Chris and Menno, like for them, Anyway Gang it's basically a vessel for their stand-up comedy, and there's a bit of music thrown in too. And so like the van rides were very much about them preparing their material for that night. And in Edmonton, I will say this, that they bombed. And I've been in a band for, as you say, elder statesman perhaps or whatever, but I've been in a band, we played a lot of bad shows where you get off the stage and you're just a bit stunned, just like how did that all, follow, how did the wheels come off so badly? But I've never seen two musicians more depressed. And the show musically that night was fine, but when their jokes bombed and the two of them were so out of sorts at the end of it, they're just standing alone, like they needed their alone time after their comedy failure.
Just to reflect on what had happened.
Reflect on how did it go wrong. Maybe they shouldn't have opened with a joke about the Edmonton Oilers during the Battle of Alberta. That's a good place to start with where things might have gone wrong with that show. But
that's fair enough. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us. We're so excited for the show tonight. Welcome back to Edmonton.
Thank you. It's so good to be back. And hey to all the Sonic listeners out there. Love you guys.
Are you Sonic? Sonic 1029.